Bumblebee was directed by not Michael Bay. It was directed by Travis Knight, who directed the excellent Kubo and the Two Strings a couple of years ago. And this film stars Haley Steinfeld and John Cena. And this is essentially a story about Bumblebee, how he became the character that we know him to be, how he came to Earth, how he lost his voice, how he met Charlie Watson, how he got to know the humans, and how he became involved in protecting the planet as we know it, and how Optimus Prime and others figure into this. And this is essentially his origin story that we're getting, which is still based in the universe that we've seen the previous Transformers live action movies take place in, because it is still produced by Michael Bay, even though he hasn't quite directed this movie. I was excited for this film because even though I do enjoy a couple of the movies in the Michael Bay series, the other ones have been pretty disappointing, and there's one of those movies I outright hate. And so I want to see a change of pace. I didn't hate The Last Night, but I think at The Last Night I realized I want to see someone new take the reins. I want to see what happens when a new director decides to put a take on these characters. And in this movie, we've got, like I said, Travis Knight taking it over. And about 35 minutes into the film, this becomes easily the best live action Transformers movie ever made. This film is surprisingly great. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. I was expecting a fun time, something like, you enjoy it. It's got some, issues for sure. But, at the end of the day, it's enjoyable, and you should take your family to it. And that is what it is, but it's just amplified a little bit more. This is one of the most enjoyable movies I have seen this year. It's a lot of fun, and a lot of it has to do with just the writing. This has been written by Christina Hodson, who is also writing the next Harley Quinn spin-off movie, the Birds of Prey movie. And I think what she's done here, if this carry forwards into Birds of Prey, we might have a winner on our hands with that movie too. Here, I really like what she brings to Charlie and Bumblebee's dynamic. It's a very off-kilter dynamic, as you know, and we've seen Bumblebee with other human characters before, with Mark Wahlberg and Shia LaBeouf. But even though I think the first movie did a good enough job with Sam and Bumblebee, it wasn't, really taken anywhere else after that first movie. In the second and third movies, it was pretty much surface level. And with Mark Wahlberg, let's face it, aside from the fact that he was there was zero connection I felt between him and Kate Yeager. Within 20 minutes of Charlie meeting Bumblebee, the connection here is more solid than anything. Haley Steinfeld is terrific as Charlie. Within no time at all, you care more about her than any other character you have in all those 5 other Transformers movies before. She's a very vulnerable character. She's going through something very terrible, which you may see as a trope that has been done many times before. She's dealing with the loss of somebody personal, in her life. And we've seen that before, but it's handled in a very beautiful way here. There's a great scene where she's telling Bumblebee about a certain thing that is very special to her because of this. And it's a beautiful scene. And those scenes are very prominent in this movie because while there is action and while there is the explosive elements of this film is at heart a movie about this girl and this car that she's found, which happens to be a transformer. And the relationship that is established between them is easily the best part about this movie. Bumblebee here is also the best he's ever been portrayed in a film. His way of interacting with Charlie, the facial expressions that he has due to some spectacular CGI are absolutely beautiful. He's never looked more real. He's never felt more real. And here they give him this sense of childlike innocence, which I've been waiting to see for a while again now. And they handle it, again, to extreme perfection. And this is applying to most of the film, but they've done a good job of not overcomplicating it, which is something that I feel like that's what the other movies were starting to suffer from. When you're throwing too much onto the table and you're like, all right, here's what we're doing. You gotta slow down for a second and really just focus on what is important, the things that are important, not on other things that are happening on the side. This movie very smartly decides to focus on the core plot, that is Bumblebee's on Earth, and Transformers, like the Decepticons, are looking for him to find out where Optimus Prime is due to the war happening on Cybertron. And in this case, there is only 2 Decepticons really featured in the film, that is Shatter and Dropkick. And I think they did a great job with these villains too. Angela Bassett as Shatter in particular was terrifyingly gleeful. She was having a ton of fun, I'm sure, behind the mic over there, and They actually gave her some really creepy moments. Justin Theroux as Dropkick is also pretty menacing at a few points. Like, they've done a good job with these villains. Optimus Prime is there for a few minutes in this movie. He has one action scene for about 45 seconds, which might be the best Optimus Prime action scene in film history. So that's great. They're just telling you that's what they did. They harken back in terms of designs to what you've seen earlier, which is going to be like almost like porn for Transformers fans. Like, this does exactly what you want it to do. It looks like a Transformers movie. It feels like a Transformers cartoon. Like, it's brilliant in those regards. The score is also really, really great. It's got a beautiful soundtrack. Sometimes the film feels a little Iron Giant-y, but in a good way. Like the connection that Charlie and Bumblebee have, but I found it immensely charming, and I keep coming back to that word, charming. This film is, in a sense, a very charming movie. Kubo and the Two Strings also handles the connections that Kubo has with the other characters like really, really well. This does that in a very similar way. And it leads to such an endearing experience overall that I can't wait for you guys to see it. This was at an early access screening, so there were already audience members watching this movie who had a lot of fun. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well too. As for issues, not all of the dialogue works. There's some clunky beats with Charlie's, setup before she's, meeting Bumblebee. And those could have been a little bit better. You get a few very cliched teenager who's about to turn 18 moments. And that sometimes felt like, oh, we've seen this kind of trope before. There's a few jokes that don't quite land. I would say like 75% of the humor works, but there's that 25% that just does not work at all. There's a few soundtrack choices which I like. I like the fact that there's a lot of good music used in this movie because at the end of the day, Bumblebee is all about the music. But sometimes it felt a little abrasive. I feel like they could have, spread it out a little bit more evenly. It was kind of like, where it's the 80s, it's the 80s, it's the 80s. Like, we know it's the 80s. We got that from the get-go. Just, we can establish it a little bit better next time rather than saying, it's the 80s, by the way. But that all said, that's really all my issues with this film. But all in all, I really enjoyed this movie, and I can't wait for you guys to see it when it's out. I'm going to give Bumblebee an 8.5 out of 10. Oh, by the way, I got a toy at the screening. Let's look at it right now while we are live on camera. So, here we go. Alright, it says Movie Edition Turbochargers, and ooh! We got Bumblebee! We actually got Bumblebee! That's pretty cool. Does this thing transform? Oh my god! It does! That's so cool. I don't know how you do this, but holy crap! That's so cool! Is that it? That there you go. So cool. Thanks, AMC. That's really, really awesome. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. If you guys did see Bumblebee, let me know what your thoughts are on it. Definitely go check this out. This is gonna be a hell of a week. The December Christmas weekend. We've got this, Aquaman, Spider-Verse, and Mary Poppins Returns. It's gonna be crazy. You guys are the best, and as always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.